Welcome to Warped Tour 2010. See all your favorite artists like Blood on the Dance Floor, Lost Prophets, Austin Jones, R. Kelly, Roman Polanski, Jeffrey Epstein, and Green Day. Hey, they didn't do anything. It'll all be in honor of Michael Jackson. Everyone with a pending allegation is gonna be there. We even have a tent for the parents while their kids disappear in the tour van. Warped Tour. All ages.
Warped Tour is not responsible for any items or children that go missing. Sponsored by Burger King.
Burger King! Okay, so I got a comment asking me to talk about Dahvie Vanity, and no, he's not related to Mr. Worldwide. Everybody already knows what he did. It's been beaten to death. He's a Chester, I get it. However, after reading this comment, I look him up on Instagram. His username is The Most Vivid Nightmare, something like that. When I look up his Instagram on my browser, it shows up. Then when I look it up on the app, it doesn't. This fool blocked me. This guy knows who I am and knows that I might make a video about him. To think that Dahvie watched one of my videos, looked me up on Instagram just to block me is crazy. I just get this image of Dahvie with his wig off in his sister's attic with a 10-year-old chained in the corner watching my videos. And if you don't know who this Chester is, he was in a band called Blood on the Dance Floor. They made music for 6th graders in 2010. And if you're not a 6th grader in 2010, then you probably don't care about them. I guess between 2010 and maybe 2013, they had a spark of relevance. Their shirts were being sold at Hot Topic. Their CDs were being sold at Target. They had a dedicated audience of preteens. Their shows would end at 9 or 10 o'clock because most of their audience had curfews. And within a few years, their audience started shrinking. By the time it was 2014, they were playing shows for like 70 people. Once their 11-year-old fans turned 12, it was over. I haven't heard of these guys in like 10 years. They can't tour anymore because 11-year-olds now, they like listen to Ice Spice or Sukihana. So these fools used to be rock stars. They're probably painting houses, selling hot dogs in front of Home Depot. Like, hey, I used to be somebody. Yeah, whatever, just paint my house, you piece of shit. It's okay, one day I might fall off, and I'll be painting houses with them. This guy right here, Dahvie Vanity, the bald one, he wears a weave. People talk about him to this day because of his allegations. So you're telling me that a 38-year-old man who collects Hello Kitty bras and dresses like a 14-year-old from 2010 is a creep? Next you're gonna tell me Father Joseph is a creep.
Yes! Give me your bras right now. Give me all your bras. I want them all. Give me your bras right now! I want your bras. You see this thing? Give them to me right the fuck now. Don't be a prude. Don't be a prude. Give me that Hello Kitty. Give me that Hello Kitty. I want it. Here we go.
And let's try to figure out who he was before he was famous. This was him in high school. Dahvie was born Jesus David Torres in 1984 to Puerto Rican parents. During high school, he would constantly get in trouble. According to himself, he was dissecting a frog for class and threw it at somebody. And one time, he was caught pounding off in the girls' gym class locker room.
So how proud of your son are you?
And I make it really far.
Very. I am so excited. Very, very. I have no words to say. I have nothing to express. Yes, it's like a miracle. Yeah. He was always curious.
So how did he start it?
Oh my God, he was always curious. He was hyper. He was always into everything. Climbing the walls if you let him.
Yeah.
And always making noise. I mean, even with his feet. And the teacher would call me and said, your son is always disrupting the class. He's always making noises. He's always, so I always get the little yellow slip that he was always making noises, or he always a sad face because he was always making noises, or with the pants, or with the feet, or always something. So he already had music within him. And the hair, when did that hair started it? I guess when he started loving rock and roll.
Really?
Yeah.
His parents would come to his defense and support his behavior. Dahvie claims to have been poor growing up, but his victims actually say his family had money. It's safe to assume that he wasn't popular in high school because there aren't really any people who have claimed to know him or have been friends with him back then. Dahvie attended Lake Howell High School at the same time as Pat Calathes and Teo Lynn. The community he grew up in, Winter Park, Florida, looks to be an above-average suburb. He graduated in 2003, and Dahvie has said in private that he was a late bloomer who didn't lose his virginity till he was 19. So it's safe to assume that he never had a steady girlfriend in high school. This type of thing could be traumatizing for certain people. And as an adult, in his 20s, he was hanging out with high schoolers. The fact that he changed his looks so dramatically probably indicates that he was super insecure about his appearance. Maybe he didn't know who he was back then. Flash forward to 2006, Dahvie is playing in a band. The look he has here is pretty close to the look he still has today. At this point, he had discovered MySpace and was marketing himself as a rock star hairdresser, even though he was neither a rock star or a hairdresser. He wasn't actually a licensed hairdresser, but to do scene hair isn't that hard to figure out. Most of his clients were young teenage girls from MySpace who he would force himself on. In June 2007, a 14-year-old would call a Christian radio show where teens discussed their troubles on air. The young woman told the host that she was sexually assaulted at her home 8 days earlier. A member of the staff called the police. The victim was a shy 8th grader who was bullied throughout middle school and didn't have many friends. Most of her time was spent on the computer, which is pretty normal nowadays. She was terrified when a patrol car showed up to her house. The police asked her who did this to her, and she said she didn't know his real name or even how old he was, but he was known as Dahvie Vanity, the pedophile hairdresser. The rock star hairdresser. Dahvie told this girl that he wanted to give her a new look and drove several hours to see her. The girl's mom was a single parent working 2 jobs, so she had to leave after Dahvie arrived, and that's when he forced her to perform oral sex on him. Dahvie was 22 at the time, and the mom asked the cops not to arrest Dahvie as long as he cuts off contact with the daughter. Dahvie was charged with sexual penetration of a child between the ages of 12 and 15 by an adult, which would be punishable by up to 15 years in prison. The victim refused to cooperate with the police, so the case was dropped. Now that's terrible. This man has over a dozen allegations that are exactly like that one. Him finding a way into a teenager's house with the parents' knowledge and then forcing them to perform oral sex. I'll get into some of his allegations, but if I get into each one, this video would be 10 hours. Lord of the Rings, Transformers. After 10 minutes, I get it, but I want to talk about why they were popular in the first place and why he got away with the things he did. So in the mid-2000s, emo music and scene culture were really popular. Bands like My Chemical Romance, AFI, Paramore, All Time Low. It wasn't really about the music, it was about the hair, the style. Everybody was rocking emo haircuts, tight jeans, cutting themselves. Self-harm was really big back then. And like I said, some of these bands were more known for how they looked rather than how they sounded. An example is Black Veil Brides. Their fans were mostly 14-year-old girls who thought that their hair was cool. Dahvie Vanity noticed this and kind of emulated that look, the super gothic look, face paint, leather, crazy hair. He'd eventually recruit someone who looks like Andy Biersack, really trying to capitalize off this trend. The point that I'm trying to make is that this image worked at the time. Another demographic Blood on the Dance Floor appealed to was the LGBT community. Similar to Jeffree Star, back in 2009, it became cool to be progressive, like it was a counterculture. You had guys like Adam Lambert gaining traction. Lady Gaga was claiming to be bisexual. There was a trend back then called emo boys kissing, which Dahvie participated in.
The whole scene thing was at its peak he had that look that all those girls thought was like so cool, so hot, and like things like emo boys kissing was like a big thing. So like him and Jay would make out on stage for a song, even though, you know, Dahvie wasn't gay or bi. He would do that because of the attention that the kids would love it. But yeah, his appearance is what I think made the kids so amazing, because the music wasn't good. It was really just the appearance that got them, I think.
Dahvie is the epitome of a straight guy pretending to be gay so he can attend a girl's sleepover. We all make jokes about this, but literally, this guy used this as a strategy to do predatory things and even joked about it in an interview.
Yeah, I'm a pervert, I admit it.
Yeah, I think I am too.
I'm a nympho, I can't help it.
Dahvie's bandmate Jay would talk about being bullied for wearing makeup, that Blood on the Dance Floor represents his struggle, the outcast. Blood on the Dance Floor was definitely mixed in with gay culture, and a lot of the haters they had were dismissed as homophobic assholes because some of them were.
Let me get your face down, dog.
The little homie right there, get him, fool. Hell yeah. What, you got fags or what?
Yeah, gay core, dog.
Oh, yes, really?
Yeah.
Fuck that fag.
Yeah.
Any one of you.
What?
I'll whip any one of you guys right now, one-on-one.
Why? Because we're gay?
Because I don't like faggots.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fuck that. Just one-on-one.
The music itself, at first you had Dahvie and Garrett rapping, singing, screaming over techno beats. It was EDM, rave music. This was a big part of why they were popular, because in 2009, rock music was sort of on a downturn and EDM music was becoming more popular. The Gen Z kids didn't care if you knew how to play an instrument, they just wanted to see somebody with cool hair. All of the emo kids were slowly turning into ravers. This was right before the EDM explosion. Blood on the Dance Floor was like an introduction to EDM music because they looked like a rock band, but they made EDM music similar to Bass Hunter, with screaming and rapping, similar to Hollywood Undead, which they actually ended up collaborating with Deuce.
And then I did that song with him, and then since then, I don't know, he's just been doing this thing, you know?
I kind of figured you might not have even really known, but that dude is he's literally he was a pedophile the entire time.
Oh, right?
Yeah, the entire time, I swear to God.
Nice. I mean, when we were rolling with him,
Chris Hansen has been investigating, like he's been doing all these.
He seemed nice.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fun. He was just like, I don't know.
There was
like a nice guy to me.
Yeah. Well, there's always been all these girls that have been that are accusing him, saying that like while he was doing the band, that he was molesting them backstage. It was really fucked up shit. Like the dude's it's come out that he's a monster, and that's why that band ain't even around anymore.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's crazy,
That's
dude.
funny, yeah.
Like I'll link you the
I
Chris
guess
Hansen
I mean,
videos.
whatever. That's his thing, you know.
Most of their fans were middle school aged, sometimes even elementary, maybe early high school. And again, that has to do with the way they look. Having emo hair works when you're a teenager, but not when you're like 24. They had songs like Candyland, Yo Ho, which is a pirate song, I Love Hello Kitty. They sung over video game beats. It was totally geared towards little kids. If I had to compare it to anything popular today, I'd say PP Cocaine. She's really animated and sounds like she should be on Nickelodeon, but her lyrics are insanely sexual. She's also LGBT, so that makes the comparison easier. And by the way, I'm not against sexual music or LGBT culture. First there was Garrett, and then there was Jay. Dahvie always has a gay sidekick. If it was just him alone, then it'd be creepy. The fact that he has a gay guy with him makes him less threatening. There's actually studies that show straight women feel more comfortable around gay men. This is on purpose. When he made a video addressing his sexual allegations, he mentioned that he can't be a pedo because Jay is gay.
Hey guys, I wanted to make this video to clarify any false rumors about me that is going around. Of course, we're back to the whole famous rapist, pedophile allegations made against me. Because our band is being threatened. People are saying that we're rapists and we're pedophiles. Jay is gay.
Geez, there's all kinds of petitions, like with moms trying to get us kicked off Warped Tour. They just don't like us because, like, you know, the music was explicit and stuff.
Different.
Well, I mean, we've changed since then, you know, and like they've gotten a bad perception of us in their head because of the stuff they read on the internet. It's just not true. You know, you can't believe everything you read on the internet because that was true. I mean, none of us would be living right now, right?
Well, what are some of the rumors that got blown out of proportion?
I think basically it was just like rumors that were blown out of proportion with the whole like you know, me having sex with underage fans and Jay having sex with underage fans. And the thing is, like, we live for our fans and we would die for our fans. And the fact that there was accusations made against that, it's just disgusting. Like, I cannot find it in my heart that people would actually be that low.
Like a mother.
He always lumped in his bandmate into his controversy. No, dude, we're talking about you, not the other guy. Dahvie couldn't really sing. He doesn't have a good singing voice. He can't carry a song on his own. He has to have another guy sing the chorus and somebody else make the beat for him. Anyway, Blood on the Dance Floor would start touring in 2009. They usually played dinky venues for 50 people. The one in Colorado where Dahvie got arrested, right now it's a Torchy's Tacos. At the time, it was a small venue called The Life Spot that was down the street from Arapahoe High School. The high school kids would go there to hang out and just watch whoever played. Not to get sidetracked, but growing up, there's always these all-ages venues that we go to as teenagers. They were usually located in strip malls in suburban areas, and from the outside they look like restaurants, and most of the time they'd get shut down. Dahvie played at one of these places, and like I said earlier, he gears his music towards children, and he forced himself on some teenage girls. One of them called the police, and he got arrested on stage. Dahvie claims to have just been detained, but they actually did hold him in jail.
A girl accused me of rape. She took a rape kit, she failed the rape kit, and they proved my innocence. Now, if you pull up, if you go and type in Dahvie Vanity police report, which I'm going to go ahead and do right now. I'm going to pull it up and we'll go into it. You'll see it's a report. It's not a charge. It's not anything. It's just basically saying that I was detained. So during this incident, after the show, you know, I went down to the police station, and as you look at if you look at the police record, you can see that I was facing a sexual assault first-degree felony. And it was on September 13th, 2009. What people don't understand is that people have taken this police report and said that the girl was younger. Obviously, that's not true. You don't see statutory rape on there. You see sexual assault first-degree felony. What that basically means is that, you know, that's basically what I was facing. It was a first-degree felony assault charge. They proved my innocence. You know, I went, they questioned me, I told them the truth, I told them exactly what happened. Hey, I just got a blowjob after the show, it wasn't anything crazy, you know, there was no foul play or anything like that, and they let me go. Prior to me leaving and going about my life, people were my past band members and media outlets like BTV were saying that the girl was 15, and they threw in all these, like, false rumors about it and amplified it. Well, the girl was 17.
His side of the story is that he got a blowjob from a 17-year-old after a show, and her parents called the police. Now, he later took down this video because what actually happened was he was arrested during the show, so he lied. Garrett would continue the tour without him, and there's footage of him performing. Dahvie's own dad had to drive to Colorado to bail him out. Garrett had witnessed Dahvie with the underage girl, then later saw the same girl talking to police. So he made this post on MySpace saying that he's never been paid, not that a strip mall tour would pay that much anyway, and that Dahvie is abusive towards women and was charged with rape. He steals lyrics and his persona is fabricated, and he wears a wig. Dahvie's natural hair is short and curly, and he started experiencing temporal recession as early as high school, and now he's completely bald. Garrett mentioned that Dahvie is 25, he threatens people, and is overall just a bad person. So since Garrett was out of the band, Dahvie recruited Javon Monroe, who was barely 18 at the time. Dahvie had known him since he was 15, so Dahvie was 22, socializing with 15-year-olds. The revenue between these guys wasn't split 50-50. Dahvie made a deal with Jay that he pays for his food, housing, and insurance as long as he records and tours with him. This wasn't really a partnership, but a boss-employee type relationship where Jay barely had enough money to survive, but being a teenager, he was just happy to tour and make music. The two of them made a song called Sexting, which would later get remixed by Jeffree Star, and this brought them to a new level of popularity. The other songs with Garrett would emerge, getting millions of views on YouTube.
Floor took time out of their tour schedule to visit David and his 8th grade class.
They were selling tons of merch and were able to tour actual theaters anywhere from 250 to 500 people per show. One quick allegation is Ma Levy. You guys can guess what happened. She was 15 and he forced her head into his crotch area.
So basically, what I remember is like 1 minute he makes me a drink. And then the next minute he's forcing me to do things that I wasn't prepared for. He got on his knees, like on the like the pallet or whatever, and kind of like positioned me into also being on my knees. I'm a lot shorter than, even though he's very small. I'm only 5 feet, 4'11", whatever. I'm very small. So he positioned me to his crotch. I don't remember if he kissed me first, whatever, probably at some point, but, you know, he forced me down to, you know, perform things that I was not in any way, shape, or form interested in performing.
This woman would actually get hired as their merch girl. She says that she has seen Dahvie have sexual encounters with underage girls. Big shocker, right?
I witnessed him with underage girls, and I didn't like it. And he also was bullying me the entire time. He would like, it's not playful bullying, it's like mean. Like, he'd be mean to you. Jay would kind of joke, but
Jay would joke around. Did you ever go to these other young women and say, run while you can, get away, this isn't going to end well?
I wish I did. I was still so young, and I guess I just didn't know what to do. I kind of took it seriously, but not as seriously as I should have. But I was disgusted, and I think he knew that, because, I mean, I had walked in on him one night by myself when he was receiving oral from what looked like an underage girl. I can't confirm it, but she looked very young. Oh my God, can you believe how big this girl's tits are? Or like something like that. Like, he always was talking about boobs, and then he starts grabbing them with both his hands, shaking them around like, oh.
Showing off.
Yeah, exactly. And she was giggling about it, and I don't remember if he said this or if I asked. He either said something like, I can't believe her age or something, or I may have asked how old you are, but either way, she said, I'm 13. And I was 13. Like, and I looked at the guy that we were, you know, our friend, and I was like.
And in the summer of 2010, there were rumors that Dahvie Vanity had a sexual relationship with an 11-year-old girl named Jessie Slaughter. Then came a video of her defending herself. Instead of ignoring the trolls, she instigated them, saying that she's perfect and that they're losers. It was like Lil Tay.
I'll pop a Glock in your mouth and make a brain slushy, okay? Because you hater bitches, you're just, like, jealous of me. I'm just saying, you're jealous of me because, 1, I'm more pretty than you, I have more friends, more people like me, I have more fans.
Y'all haters are already older than me, but y'all still talking shit. I'm a 9-year-old millionaire, and I be smoking dope, bitch. Shut your mouth before I smack you on.
Just saying, stop hating on me. I'm just a normal girl who's perfect in every way, and you're just jealous.
Back in those days, people hated this type of attitude from a little girl. Like, hey, don't talk to me like that. Nowadays, she'd probably get a record deal from Atlantic.
Catch me outside, how about that?
These trolls really wanted to test her, break her down, and they did, cyber harassing her, calling the police, saying that her dad is diddling her. This video she made just made things worse.
Their retaliation, now seen by more than 1 million viewers, only made the taunting worse, taking cyberbullying to a whole new level.
When this first started, we were very afraid.
I've been getting a lot of death threats.
Online people accuse me of molesting my daughter.
And by the way, she's fucking 11. It's not cool to harass 11-year-olds, even if they are annoying. But she released a video of her crying and her dad yelling at the camera. Her dad is saying that anyone who trolls his daughter is gonna be arrested and that consequences will never be the same.
Guys, this is Jesse Sutter, and
You know
I
what?
just wanted to say that you guys have ruined my life.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this is from her father. You bunch of lying, no good punks. And I know who it's coming from because I back traced it. And I know who's emailing and who's doing it. And you've been reported to the cyber police and the state police. So you better write one more thing or screw with my computer again. You'll be arrested. End of conversation from her father.
You're right, it's fucking gonna come and beat her ass.
And if you come near my daughter, guess what? Consequences will never be the same.
At the time, people thought this was hilarious. They were making parodies.
You guys have ruined my life and it's really
Okay, this is coming from her father, you bunch of lying, no good pricks. I know, I read the comments and they're being sent to the local FBI and the highest authority of cyber police.
Blood on the Dance Floor made a parody.
Fucking guys ruining my life, and I know my shit is falling down and fucking call me a whore for it.
Don't be saying
DJs were remixing it.
Bunch of lying, no good punks, and I know who it's coming from because I back traced it, and you've been reported to cyber police.
The consensus people had was that kids shouldn't be on the internet.
She was on the internet when she shouldn't have been. Parents, get your fucking kids off the internet.
If y'all come around my daughter again, consequences will never be the same. Never be the same. And I don't understand that. I don't know what that means.
It's never a good idea to feed a troll, and that this girl needs to be properly disciplined by her father. What's ironic is that her dad actually did get arrested for hitting her, and she was put in foster care. Eyes were on Dahvie Vanity. It was suspected that he was diddling kids. He had a picture with this girl too.
We gotta definitely write a song about how we do not diddle kids.
So he went on and made a song about how he doesn't diddle kids.
Look at me, I'm beautiful, not a suspect of rape. Do not diddle kids, it's no good diddling kids. Call me pedophile, underage, just on myself.
No, but he actually did make a song about how he doesn't diddle kids. And people at the time liked it. The creepiest thing is that they released it on her 12th birthday. Yeah, that'll show her. He definitely had a relationship with her to write a song about her. That means you feel some type of way. How are you going to have a relationship with an 11-year-old? This girl still believes in Santa Claus. But nobody believed her. They thought it was just a kid talking shit. I mean, we all had that friend in middle school that was claiming to do grown-up things, and she would go on to say that they never did anything together.
Hi Dahvie, hi Jay, hi Sally, hi the whole BTDF spectrum. It's Jessica Rose, aka Jessica Slaughter here, and I'm saying sorry for everything that I've done. I feel really bad about it now. I'm in foster care. I have been locked up in mental institutions, and just like you done Goose said, I do have to go to counseling now and everything, but it's not because of you. So, I'm really sorry for everything that I've done. I'm sorry for accusing you of rape and everything. I know that all that happened.
So it seemed like Dahvie Vanity was innocent of all this. His name was cleared. Target was selling their CDs. They got interviewed by Watch Mojo. Jesse got interviewed by BuzzFeed years later, and they didn't even entertain Dahvie's pedo allegations.
Band called Blood on the Dance Floor. And their lead singer, Dahvie Vanity, was sort of a figure of the underbelly of the stick cam, MySpace, you know, taking a selfie. I got a selfie with Dahvie Vanity at Warped Tour 09. Oh my God, like picture comment for picture comment, like that kind of shit.
There were rumors, blog posts, tons of young girls saying, oh yeah, Dahvie had sex with me when I was underage, or he sent me dirty pictures. Jeffree Star even tweeted that Dahvie was a child molester, but the band was still successful, releasing well-received music videos and selling out venues. Their 2010 album Epic had Javon Monroe re-record several of Garrett's parts, and people really liked Jay. Rumors of Dahvie being a pedo didn't ruin the band's overall success, similar to XXXTentacion, who also had horrendous allegations but was still touring. I mention X because since he was a 6th grader in 2010, Blood on the Dance Floor was an influence for his emo/rap music. These guys had a reach.
Into the Fray, 3 Days Grace, Papa Roach.
Really?
So yeah, bro, like I was weird. I listened to Blood on the Dance Floor, like yeah.
Another example from even earlier was South Park Mexican. He had impregnated a 13-year-old and people still supported him even after being convicted, and to this day, people still support him. But in 2011, Blood on the Dance Floor released All the Rage with their most popular song, Bewitched, which kept their relevancy alive for another year, as Javon Monroe started to become the main songwriter, changing the band's focus from over-sexual music to an anti-bullying, pro-outcast message.
Our theme, because like I said, we're trying to save the world. That's the point where we're doing a group now, is to take on the world and save the world. And it's superheroes, and it reminds us that with great power comes great responsibility, like in Spider-Man.
Then in 2012, they released Evolution, charting at 42, making this their most commercially successful album. Their fan base was known for being really intense and really annoying.
If you try and make fun of them again, I'm gonna tell them, and they're gonna come after you. And you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna kill you, okay? If they don't do it, I'll do it myself, because I'll do anything for them, because I love them, and I am their #1 fan.
Creepy behavior on tour. One of Dahvie's victims, who was of course underage, she said that Dahvie would always disappear after shows. Nobody knows for sure what he was doing. Now it's safe to assume he was most likely violating a minor without consent while their parents were frantically looking for them.
He was very sneaky. They played this game like Where's Dahvie, because he would sneak out after the show, couldn't find him, and he was hooking up with some fans somewhere. I don't know if they were underage every single time, but they definitely were sometime. I mean, he knows he's a predator. He's told me that he's attracted to younger girls. There's been times, I mean, he trusted me so much because we had known each other for so long. At his most vulnerable moments, like if he was drunk or if he would cry about it, I'm sick, I don't know why I'm like this. Even when we were dating last year, we had issues with him Snapchatting young girls, and he would show me pictures of girls that were Snapchatting him, and they were underage, and he's like, I know, I just, they want to, it's fine. And I just kind of didn't know how to approach him with that.
Dahvie would sometimes spend 20 minutes with each fan at meet and greets, while Javon Monroe would quickly do his rounds and retreat back into the tour bus or a hotel. Dahvie would take his fans to diners and buy them milkshakes. His favorite place in Denver was Gunther Tootie's, which is a 50s themed diner that's supposed to be friendly for kids.
I have to buy Dahvie Vanity a pizza and a Coke.
He already said to me,
yeah,
he will give me something personal of his, from his bedroom. Now, what could that be, Timmy? What would you give me from your bedroom?
Why?
You know what? Your pen is like running.
Y'all come back, you hear?
A lot of this footage of him hanging out with fans includes parents. These are moms having a midlife crisis. They want to cling to their youth and relate to their daughter by hanging out with a low-level rock star. Him developing a relationship with the mother, sometimes having sex with them, would give Dahvie easier access to the daughters. It would also make it harder for the daughters to come forward, knowing that Dahvie is friendly with their moms. He kept his behavior a secret from his bandmate, knowing that Jay could potentially expose Dahvie the same way Garrett did. Although some people believe that Jay at some point probably witnessed Dahvie assault somebody, who knows, or that his security guards may have known, none of the victims' testimonies involve Javon Monroe being in the corner. Dahvie is definitely aware that you need witnesses for arrests to be made. He narrowly avoided 2 convictions, so obviously he's going to be sneaky.
That's the craziest part about it is, right when I started touring with them, I was like, I think he's right. Like, I saw every time he would come and say, you know, that's not true, these things aren't true about me, I was framed, blah, blah, blah. And I started to think, like, maybe that's the case, because he was always so nice. He was smart, man. He knew exactly what to say. He knew exactly when to have everyone leave the room. He was just very good at being a shitty person. You know, for example, like, he would get in really close with the parents. And so when these girls would come up at the merch table, he would be giving them free merch, giving their mom free merch, and he'd get really close with the parents. And then, you know, that would allow him to be close to the entire situation, you know. Pretty separated, to be honest with you. Like, there was definitely a divide, you know. I started hanging out more with Jay on tour, and if he didn't need to be at the venue or on the bus, he wasn't. And, you know, even when they were at the house, Jay was in his room all the time, except when Dahvie needed him for something. And, you know, it sucks to see these people come out and say that, you know, well, he must have saw something, he was there all the time. He really wasn't. And it was kept at such a distance too, where Jay wasn't present enough to see anything. They were 2 completely different people. They just happened to be in the same band. So they would hang out together sometimes, but it was really forced. So there was like barely a friendship there.
Most of Dahvie's victims shared the same story. I'm mentioning this now because a lot of his allegations came after the Colorado incident in 2009. Dahvie going to jail wasn't enough to stop him. It just made him more secretive, more careful, and with persona, more perceiving. Despite his anti-bullying message, other bands described him as being an asshole, as he once dressed up as a bunny and choked a woman who opened up for him.
Am I dreaming? Is this really happening?
I just got choked by Dahvie.
Like, they're basically gonna... Yeah, it's fine. It's normal. Listen, I choke you. I beat you because I love you.
I know.
If I didn't love you, you know, I wouldn't beat you. It's kind of like me saying, Brian, I really do care about you. When I beat you, you know, like Chris Brown beats Rihanna, you know, it's out of love.
Absolutely.
The band New Year's Day claimed there was a man looking for his little sister after a show. He was about to call the police. The little sister was supposedly having sex with Dahvie in an unknown location. Javon Monroe was also confronted by a mother looking for her 15-year-old daughter, thinking she was on the bus. He got mad and reminded her that he was the only one there, only for the girl to show up beside Dahvie later that night.
It was great. This woman, I just got on the bus and I was like fixing myself, and like some bitch cop knocks on the bus. I'm like, who the fuck is that? So I opened the door and it's this mom, and she's like, my daughter's in there, and I was like, the fuck she is, bitch? I just got on this bus, ain't nobody in here. Someone had to unlock it for me. And she was like, well, one of the security guards told me that Dahvie and my 15-year-old daughter just walked back to the bus. I was like, bitch, you're bullshit. Her kid comes around the corner, she's like, oh, she's right there, Dahvie's right there. I was like, thank you.
Jay would later say he thought it was weird that Dahvie spent so much time with these girls. His behavior was always suspicious, but he had never witnessed anything explicit. Again, Dahvie would manipulate Jay, having him believe that he is also a victim of the allegations, even though no one has ever accused Jay of being a pedo. Speaking of interviews, Dahvie would mention sex a lot, often flat out admitting he's a pervert. And despite the anti-bully message, Dahvie and Jay would sometimes come off as rude and disrespectful in interviews.
Well, I don't want to get whatever he probably has, so
Fuck this guy, like it's insane.
I don't want AIDS though.
Yeah, but the thing is, he wears a condom every time.
Oh, okay.
He's
So
a smart fucker.
you've been tested?
Yeah.
You're clean?
I'm clean.
He gets this all the time.
He has to.
But right, I mean, whatever.
It is what it is.
I get laid more than this ugly fuck.
It's true.
I mean, cuckoo,
Cuckoo cuts you. All right.
It starts with Tarn!
Good night!
Wow.
It's crazy how Brian made a joke about Jay having AIDS only for Jay to be diagnosed with HIV years later. There were also videos of Dahvie being creepy with fans, sometimes kissing underage girls.
I want to just come on all your little titties tonight. And I want to suck on all your little peepees.
And like I mentioned earlier, their crowd started shrinking in 2013, and Dahvie's reputation became worse over time. There were memes being shared on Facebook about Dahvie being a pedo. An opening act for Blood on the Dance Floor claimed that Dahvie had him pay $4,000 to join them on tour in 2014, and each show only had 70 people. And while other bands were performing, Dahvie would go into the crowd and start taking pictures with fans. Their albums weren't selling anymore, and Jay claims to have only been paid $1,000 to write their last album together. Unfortunately, Jay would get diagnosed with HIV in 2016. Dahvie would force him to go on tour where there were only 30 people at each show. Jay had gotten increasingly sick and wasn't being properly treated, and I mentioned earlier that Dahvie controlled his health insurance. Well, Dahvie actually stopped paying for it, so Jay couldn't find any treatment for his HIV. Jay inevitably left the band, exposing that Dahvie had a short temper and was usually an unpleasant person to be around. He wrote overly sexual songs, knowing that most of his fan base was underage. While Dahvie supposedly had a net worth of over $1 million, Jay was briefly homeless. There's a lot of bad blood between them. Jay had even participated in a live stream where a victim of Dahvie Vanity was being interviewed, where Jay confirmed that Dahvie dated barely legal girls, giving them alcohol, and would often hang out with 14 or 15-year-olds after shows.
Did you see him interact, Jay, with young female fans?
All the time. We would do like meet and greets like after the show. And the way it would happen, because he would take like 15-20 minutes like per person, and like when you have a line full of people, that's not going to work. So I, being like the less popular one, was able to just like kind of like walk down the line and like, you know, do my rounds, meet everyone, and then just, you know, go about my business. And with him, he would be like doing a signing for like 4 hours, talking to like all these like girls, and I was like, what do you have what do you have in common besides like, I mean, I don't know what they would talk about, like I guess just the music or something. To me, if I would like go to the merch table, and you know, of course I'm like friends with the merch girl, so like we're, you know, talking back and forth, and there's like some like kid standing back there, and I'm like, who's that? They're like, oh, Dahvie said that told her to wait here, and he was like gonna like give her some free merch or whatever, and I was like, all right. But all of it seemed weird after like reading, because I would see it all the time. Even like during when I was in the band, I would see people like say things about it online, and I'm like, is this like really happening? It's kind of my last straw with him. That was the last tour I did actually, and I just completely like just packed up my shit and moved to Arizona. I was diagnosed with HIV in like that spring, and I didn't have any health insurance or anything. Dahvie pretty much kept me under his like thumbnail with finances. Like he wouldn't pay me directly. He would just like pay my bills for me. So like I never had to pay rent or like pay a phone bill or anything, but like it was like embarrassing because I'm not like a kid anymore. I'm like well into like, I'm 25 at this point, you know, and I should be able to like, you know, fend for myself. So after I was diagnosed, I needed to get health insurance so I could start treatment. And Dahvie was like, well, there was a tour scheduled like a few weeks like after that happened. So I was like, I have to bail. I was like, there's like no way. I was like, I have to stay here until all this shit's sorted. I was like, I can't just like go. And he, instead of canceling the tour, and I didn't have anywhere to go, so I just didn't know what to do. So I just got like dragged across the country once again, like sick as a dog. It was awful. When I finally got treatment, my CD4s, like a normal person's CD4 is like, I mean, like 800, 600, something like that. And then like 200 is like AIDS. Well, like my CD4 was 236. Like I was like on the actual like wall of having AIDS because this kid didn't want to cancel a fucking tour. So
Dahvie attempted to continue Blood on the Dance Floor with a woman named Fallen Vendetta. Usually he finds a tall gay guy to make him seem less threatening, but this time he had a woman who he claimed to have been engaged to. They weren't actually engaged, he was just using her as a beard while he continued to have sex with minors. The last allegation I'll mention is a girl named Winter, and God bless her soul, she was a fan of Blood on the Dance Floor after Jay left.
He had grabbed my hair and started pushing my head towards his like, you know, he started pushing my head down. And I used all of my might to get out of it. Because it really, I really didn't think, like, I didn't know, like, so I broke out of it, and he got really, like, what, we talked about this, like really, like, upset, and I'm like, my mom is right there, and then he pulled his pants down, and I just didn't know what to do. He grabbed the back of my head, and I didn't know what to do at that point. I felt like I had talked about it, and I didn't want to. I guess I didn't want to disappoint him, or I felt like I would be, and then it wasn't long. It was just a couple. It was like, it felt like 2 minutes maybe. He was done, and then he like pushed me off of him, and then he said, I'm gonna go up first, and then wait a little bit, and then you come up back up to the house. And then he left and he went upstairs.
How did that make you feel, Winter?
Inhuman, to be honest. I felt gross.
Dahvie flew her and her mom out to Ohio, where he was living with Vendetta, so she can be in a music video. And as you can guess, he forced himself on this teenage girl. And this was after Dahvie made the 10-minute video where he's saying that he's not a pedo. And he mentions in the video that he's friends with a lot of moms.
We love seeing parents come to the show. We hang out with our parents. In fact, I have some drinks with the parents at the bar, and we, kick shit and just talk.
This duo maybe lasted 1 year into 2017, but venues had stopped booking them because of how bad Dahvie's reputation was. People were even protesting. And in 2018, Jessie Slaughter was fully grown at this point and would come forward and say that Dahvie sexually assaulted her when she was 11. Her story was graphic, saying that he put fingers in her mouth to prepare her for oral sex, and it seemed like he had done this multiple times before. More and more women would come forward with similar stories, so Dahvie changed his name to Kawaii Monster. And Dahvie's solo music is Ben Simmons. Fucking terrible. Dog shit. He uploaded some songs last week, and it's like he's distorting his voice as much as possible. He's currently going by the name Most Vivid Nightmares, even trying to start a TikTok. I actually had a nightmare about Dahvie where I was beating his head with a hammer. People claim that he still talks to minors, even being seen at a restaurant with a 17-year-old. A police report was made in 2018 where there was audio of Dahvie telling a 16-year-old girl to penetrate herself using a banana to practice for him. The police ended up throwing away the evidence. They couldn't question Dahvie because they didn't know where he lived or what jurisdiction he was in. So apparently his mom lives in Orlando, his sister lives in Colorado, and he's also lived in Lakewood, Ohio. He's not registered to vote, it doesn't look like he owns property, and his name isn't signed on any lease. This dude is hiding. Even if they officially charge him, the rumor is that his sister lives somewhere in Colorado, kind of like a small, cheap town. They don't know where he is. But apparently Dahvie walks around without his wig. Somebody saw him at Walmart and just started running. The big takedown with Dahvie, where Chris Hansen interviewed all the victims, that was back in 2020. 3 years later, he's still free, and there's a lot of factors. Victims aren't coming forward to the police, possibly because he's not relevant enough to sue. You're not going to get a huge settlement from him, but you'd have to pay a lawyer thousands of dollars. Get Dahvie in court. Show the jury that dozens of girls say the same thing, similar to the Danny Masterson thing, and the judge will give Dahvie a harsh sentence. He'll be in prison without his wig, like Gary Glitter. And I think his former bandmate Jay should also sue Dahvie for the rights to blood on the dance floor, because that guy got screwed. Dahvie was even letting him die at one point. I think he wouldn't have cared if Jay died. And it's unfortunate that he hasn't been arrested yet. I said earlier that he blocked me. This dude is very aware that he might get set up. One person I talked to thought that he had already been arrested. People don't even know that he's still free. And it's really sad to think that eventually people will just stop talking about this and Dahvie will potentially just be a free man. Because Blood on the Dance Floor was a blip on the radar for mainstream music and are now mostly forgotten. Anyway, I'm out.